If you think your immigration case is safe right now, you need to stop everything and watch this video, because what is unfolding in the United States immigration system is unlike anything we have seen in decades. This is not a drill. This is not speculation. This is happening right now, and if you or someone you love is caught in the middle of this, the next few weeks could change everything. Let me be absolutely clear with you from the start. The changes hitting the U.S. immigration system are coming fast, they are coming hard, and they are not waiting for anyone to catch up. Whether you are on a work visa, waiting for a green card, applying for asylum, or simply hoping to visit family, the rules are shifting beneath your feet. And the worst part is that most people have no idea they are about to be affected until it is too late. So who exactly is being impacted first? That is the question everyone is asking. And today I am going to walk you through exactly who is at the front of this line, who should be preparing right now, and what steps you need to take before it is too late. Let us start with the group that is feeling the pressure first and hardest. If you are currently in the United States on a temporary visa, whether that is an H-1B, an L-1, an F-1 student visa, or even a tourist visa that you have overstayed, you are in the immediate impact zone. The enforcement priorities have shifted dramatically, and temporary visa holders are now facing scrutiny like never before. Here is what most people do not understand. For years, enforcement focused primarily on individuals with criminal records or those who had already received deportation orders. That was the old playbook. The new playbook is different. Now the net is wider. Now even technical violations are being flagged. If you filed paperwork late, if your employer made a mistake on your sponsorship documents, if you switched jobs without proper notification, these are the kinds of things that used to slide under the radar. Not anymore. I want you to really hear this because I know how easy it is to assume this does not apply to you. You followed the rules. You did everything right. You have been here for years without a problem. But the reality is that the system is being audited in ways it has not been audited before. Cases that were approved years ago are being reopened. Applications that were pending are being denied at higher rates, and the margin for error has essentially disappeared. Now let us talk about the second group being impacted immediately, and this one is going to hit close to home for a lot of families. If you have a pending family-based immigration case, whether you are sponsoring a spouse, a parent, or a child, the processing times and approval rates are shifting. What used to take 12 months might now take 24. What used to be a straightforward approval might now come back with a request for additional evidence that feels impossible to satisfy. And here is where the contrast becomes painful. On one hand, you have families who started their applications 2 or 3 years ago and are finally seeing approvals come through. They got in just under the wire. On the other hand, you have families who submitted their paperwork 6 months ago and are now stuck in a system that has fundamentally changed. Same forms, same qualifications, completely different outcomes. That is the reality of where we are right now. The third group I need to address, and this is perhaps the most vulnerable group of all, is asylum seekers and those with pending humanitarian cases. If you came to the United States fleeing violence, persecution, or impossible conditions in your home country, the path forward has never been more uncertain. The policies around asylum are being rewritten in real time, and the courts are backed up with hundreds of thousands of cases. What does this mean practically? It means that people who have been waiting years for their day in court are now facing a system that is actively looking for reasons to deny rather than reasons to approve. It means that the burden of proof has increased. It means that the definition of what qualifies for asylum protection is being narrowed. And it means that if you do not have proper legal representation, your chances of success have dropped significantly. But I do not want to leave you in a place of fear without giving you something to hold on to. Because here is the truth that often gets lost in all of this chaos. Even in the most difficult immigration climates, people still get approved. Families still get reunited. Visas still get granted. Green cards still get issued. The system has not shut down. It has just become harder to navigate without the right knowledge and the right preparation. So what separates the people who make it through from the people who get caught up in the changes? It comes down to 3 things, and I am going to break each of these down throughout this video. First, it is about timing. Understanding when to file, when to wait, and when to act immediately can make the difference between approval and denial. Second, it is about documentation. The days of submitting the minimum required paperwork are over. You need to over-document everything. Every claim needs proof. Every statement needs backup. Third, it is about strategy. You need to understand not just what the rules are, but how those rules are being applied right now, today, in this specific climate. Now, I know some of you watching this are feeling overwhelmed. You are thinking about your own case, your own family, your own situation, and you are wondering where you fit in all of this. That is exactly why I am making this video, because the information you need should not be hidden behind expensive legal consultations or buried in government websites that are impossible to understand. You deserve to know what is happening and how it affects you. As we continue, I am going to get specific. I am going to name the visa categories that are seeing the highest denial rates right now. I am going to explain the common mistakes that are getting applications rejected. I am going to tell you exactly what immigration officers are looking for when they review your case. And I am going to give you a clear action plan based on your specific situation. But first, I need you to understand the bigger picture of why all of this is happening right now. The changes we are seeing right now did not come out of nowhere. They are the result of years of political pressure, shifting priorities, and a fundamental rethinking of what the immigration system should look like. And whether you agree with these changes or not, understanding the why behind them is essential if you want to navigate what comes next. For decades, the United States immigration system operated on a set of assumptions. The assumption was that legal immigration was generally encouraged. The assumption was that families should be kept together whenever possible. The assumption was that people fleeing danger deserved a chance to make their case. Those assumptions are being challenged right now at every level of government. What we are witnessing is not just a policy shift. It is a philosophical shift. The question being asked is no longer simply whether someone qualifies under the existing rules. The question now is whether those rules themselves should be tightened, whether the numbers should be reduced, and whether the entire framework needs to be rebuilt from the ground up. And while that debate plays out in Congress and in the courts, real people are caught in the middle. Real families are being separated. Real careers are being disrupted. Real dreams are being put on hold or destroyed entirely. That is not political commentary. That is just the reality of what is happening on the ground right now. So let me get specific about the categories of people who need to pay the closest attention to what is happening. If you fall into any of these groups, consider this your wake-up call. First, let us talk about H-1B visa holders. The H-1B has always been one of the most popular work visas for skilled professionals, particularly in the technology, healthcare, and engineering sectors. But the scrutiny on H-1B applications and renewals has reached an all-time high. Denial rates that used to hover around 6 or 7% have spiked dramatically in recent years. Requests for additional evidence, which used to be rare, are now almost routine. What does this mean for you if you are on an H-1B? It means that your renewal is no longer a formality. It means that your employer needs to be prepared to justify your position, your salary, and your qualifications in ways they never had to before. It means that if there is any gap in your employment history, any inconsistency in your paperwork, any question about whether your role truly requires specialized skills, you could be facing a denial. And here is what makes this even more stressful. If your H-1B renewal is denied, you do not have months to figure out your next move. You have days. The clock starts ticking immediately, and if you do not have a backup plan, you could find yourself out of status before you even have time to consult an attorney. Now let us talk about the F-1 student visa holders. If you are an international student in the United States, you are facing a uniquely difficult situation. On one hand, you came here to study, to learn, to build a future. On the other hand, the pathway from student visa to work visa to permanent residency has become increasingly narrow and increasingly uncertain. The optional practical training program, which allows students to work in the United States after graduation, is under constant threat of policy changes. The ability to transition from OPT to an H-1B depends on winning a lottery that has become more competitive every single year. And even if you do everything right, even if you graduate with honors, land a great job, and get sponsored by a reputable employer, there is no guarantee that the visa will be approved. I talk to students all the time who feel like they are building their lives on a foundation of sand. They invest years in their education, tens of thousands of dollars in tuition, and countless hours in building their skills, only to face the very real possibility that they will have to leave when their studies are complete. That uncertainty takes a psychological toll that is hard to overstate. Next, I need to address the green card backlog, because this is where the system is truly broken, and it is affecting millions of people. If you are from India or China and you are waiting for an employment-based green card, you already know what I am about to say. The wait times are not measured in months or even years, they are measured in decades. Let me put that in perspective. There are people who applied for green cards in the early 2000s who are still waiting. Their children, who were minors when the application was filed, have now aged out of eligibility. Their careers have been put on hold. Their ability to change jobs, start businesses, or even travel freely has been severely restricted. And every year the backlog grows longer while the number of available visas stays the same. This is not a bug in the system. This is how the system was designed. Per-country caps that made sense in a different era are now creating impossible bottlenecks for applicants from high-demand countries. And despite years of proposals to fix this problem, nothing has changed. The people stuck in this backlog are some of the most skilled, most educated, most valuable contributors to the American economy, and they are being told to wait in a line that barely moves. Now let us shift to something that affects a different but equally important group. If you are undocumented, or if you have a family member who is undocumented, the risks right now are higher than they have been in years. Enforcement priorities have expanded, and the fear in immigrant communities is palpable. I want to be careful here because I know this is a sensitive topic. There are people watching this video who are undocumented through no fault of their own. They were brought here as children. They have lived here for decades. They have American-born children, American jobs, American lives. And yet, under the current enforcement climate, a single traffic stop could change everything. The advice I give to anyone in this situation is simple but critical. Know your rights. Have a plan. Have an emergency contact who knows what to do if something happens. Do not carry documents from other countries that could be used to facilitate removal. And most importantly, consult with an immigration attorney now, before you are in crisis, so you understand your options. This brings me to a point I cannot emphasize enough. The single biggest mistake people make in this climate is waiting too long to act. They assume their case is fine. They assume the changes do not apply to them. They assume they have time. And then something happens. A policy shifts, an application is denied, an enforcement action takes place, and suddenly they are scrambling to respond to a crisis that could have been prevented. I understand why people wait. Immigration attorneys are expensive. The paperwork is intimidating. The system itself seems designed to confuse and frustrate. But the cost of waiting is almost always higher than the cost of acting. A consultation today could save you from a deportation proceeding tomorrow. A properly filed application now could beat a deadline that gets imposed next month. Knowledge is not just power in immigration. Knowledge is protection. So where does this leave you right now? What should you actually do with all of this information? Let me give you a clear action plan based on what we have covered, because understanding the problem is only useful if it leads to action. If you are on a temporary work visa, your priority right now should be documentation and preparation. Gather every piece of paper related to your employment. Make sure your employer has accurate records of your job duties, your salary, and your qualifications. If your renewal is coming up in the next 12 months, do not wait until the last minute. Start the conversation with your employer and your attorney now. Build the strongest possible case before you file, not after you receive a request for additional evidence. If you are a student on an F1 visa, Start planning your post-graduation pathway immediately. Do not wait until senior year to think about your options. Understand the OPT timeline. Research employers who have a track record of sponsoring H-1B visas. Build relationships and network strategically. And have a backup plan in case the visa lottery does not go your way. That backup plan might mean pursuing further education, exploring opportunities in other countries, or identifying alternative visa categories that might apply to your situation. If you are stuck in the green card backlog, I know how frustrating this is. There is no easy answer. But there are things you can do to protect yourself while you wait. Make sure your priority date is accurate and documented. Keep your visa status current and avoid any gaps. Stay informed about legislative proposals that could affect the backlog, and consider adding your voice to advocacy efforts pushing for reform. And if your circumstances change, if you get a new job offer, if your family situation evolves, consult with an attorney to understand how those changes might affect your case. If you are undocumented or have undocumented family members, the most important thing you can do right now is get informed and get prepared. Find a reputable immigration attorney or a nonprofit legal organization that can review your specific situation. Understand what protections might be available to you, whether that is prosecutorial discretion, deferred action, or other forms of relief. Create an emergency plan for your family. Make sure someone you trust knows where to find important documents, how to access your finances, and how to care for your children if something happens. This is not about living in fear. This is about being prepared. For everyone watching this video, regardless of your specific situation, I want to leave you with this. The immigration system is complicated, it is frustrating, and right now it is more unpredictable than ever. But you are not powerless. You have more control than you think, and the choices you make in the coming weeks and months could determine the outcome of your case. Do not rely on rumors or advice from people who are not qualified to give it. Do not assume that what worked for someone else will work for you. Every case is different. Every situation has its own nuances, and the stakes are too high for guesswork. Stay informed. Follow reliable sources of immigration news. Watch for policy changes that could affect your category. And most importantly, take action before you are forced to react. I know this video has covered a lot of ground, and I know some of what I have shared is difficult to hear. But my goal is not to scare you. My goal is to prepare you. Because the people who come through these challenges successfully are not the ones who ignored the warning signs. They are the ones who saw what was coming and took steps to protect themselves. If this video helped you understand your situation better, share it with someone who needs to hear it. There are millions of people affected by these changes, and many of them have no idea what is happening. Your family member, your coworker, your friend might be one of them. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay informed, and take care of yourself and your loved ones.